about buyer-broker agreements today. We're going to be talking about a couple of things. We're going to be talking about some of the changes that have happened over the past year, what is required in them, and then the last half will kind of be the sales process of it. What do we say to clients? How do we get them to sign it, whether it be a friend or referral, or whether it be someone that we've prospected online and we're trying to convince them to show us a house we've never met before. So a couple of different scenarios we're going to try to run through, and I kind of want to open that up to a little bit of a discussion. I know there's people in here that do a fair amount of lead conversion and stuff like that, so I want to talk it through, because there's no wrong way. It's about finding the way that's most natural to you, that makes the most sense to you, and that you can confidently convey to your clients. That's the number one thing. Okay, a year ago, Reed, there's a sign-in sheet up here too for your CE before you're done. A year ago, it's been a year, last August 17th, almost exactly a year is when the new regulation went into place. Everyone didn't know what was going to happen. Everyone was scared. Everyone didn't know if realtors were going to go away or what. A year has gone by. For people who have been in business long enough prior, it's pretty much the exact same business we've been running. One extra conversation and one extra document. That's about it. If you were doing things properly or the long way before, almost nothing has changed for people. We're not seeing sellers just slash commissions. We're not seeing any of that stuff. It's pretty close to business as usual for buyer agents. Again, if you're doing lead conversion, it makes the process slightly more complicated, but once you hone in your scripts, hone in your documents, it's almost no different at all. So some of the changes that were made last August, over the past year, a written agreement or a buyer-broker agreement, the law calls them written agreements, are required when you are working with a buyer, which means identifying properties, scheduling tours, basically doing anything other than having an initial conversation with the buyer. It excludes services provided to the seller, such as an open house. If you are the listing agent or in the listing brokerage, that is a service to the seller. So if Brett has a listing and Tim goes and shows it, we're under the same brokerage. All the agreements are owned by the brokerage, not the agent. So you don't need it because you're providing a service to the seller. It is required during dual agents whenever the property goes under contract though, but it is not required during showings. And it's required when you are touring a home. So that is providing an in-person or virtual tour of a residential property from 1 to 4 units. So if you're showing a home or having any kind of buyer conversations with them, such as scheduling tours, identifying wants and needs, those are all require buyer-broker agreements, written agreements. And so I like to call them written agreements because we don't use the buyer-broker agreement. We call it something different, and it's a different document than you might see at OREC, so written agreement is what the law says, yeah.
And that does pass through on the same side as the buyer side. So if I have a buyer-broker agreement with a client and I have someone, Kelly or someone go show them a property, since that buyer-broker agreement is between
Yes.
the brokerage, that will cover them as well.
Correct. Every document you sign as an agent is brokerage-wide. So if you get a listing agreement, it's really the brokerage's listing agreement. So everyone in the brokerage can cooperate under that agreement. Same with a buyer-broker agreement. Good point. Do you have something?
And what about open houses for other agents that aren't in?
Yeah, so that was a big gray area when all this happened, is can we keep doing open houses for people outside of our brokerage? The answer is yes. You are being contracted by the listing agent and your work falls underneath the listing agreement. So just get your request and your approval to sit that open house in writing, whether it be a text or an email or whatever it might be, but you don't need any extra documentation. If you can get written proof that the listing agent contracted you or reached out to you, or you reached out and agreed to sit that open house, you are acting on behalf of the seller and you don't need it. Now, if you take that buyer from your open house to any other house, then you need a written agreement, unless it's another one of your listings, or technically another one of their listings. That's why new construction played really well into this, because if you sit a Lennar home, for example, we have all the Lennar homes listed in Oklahoma City. So you can sit in this house, and if someone walks in, you can take them to the house next door or down the street, or even in another community if it's under our listing agreement, you don't have to get anything signed. Because when you're showing houses, going and showing someone another house, the quicker you can get out and show someone a house or show them multiple houses, your probability of them using you goes up big time. Just again, like when we had someone walk in, we went over and showed them the model home. We showed them the 2 homes that were coming up. The more time we can spend with them and the more houses we can walk through with them, the more conversations we can have, the more we can understand their situation, the more we can figure out what their motivations are. And you start to get your hooks in them a little bit, and it becomes much easier for you to convert that business.
One last question. Did we ever get clarification on the scope of who needs to sign it? Because I've still shown a couple homes where I got mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle. I mean, it's
I think the buyer. If mom and dad are the buyer, and yeah, and brothers and sisters and sons and daughters, they don't all need to buy it. Whoever the intended buyer is would be.
Showing like, hey, I had someone sign this. They were
Yeah.
implied by it.
At the time, I believed them to be the buyer. I learned that the son was the buyer, so whatever it might be. So yeah, just whoever the intended buyer is. Yeah, Ellen.
Question. So if you have an agreement with the bar, and say if I sit on an open house, it's not in the MLS, so it's not listed, is there a problem with that?
No, same thing. It falls under. We have a master agreement, so yeah. So working with buyer, which is identifying property, talking about wants and needs, or touring a home, which is virtually or in person showing a home to a client. You need it. So even if someone's moving in from out of state, you go do them a virtual tour, that is a tour. You need an agreement for that. Okay, so the buyer agreement, all written agreements, again, it doesn't need to be an OREC buyer broker agreement contract. It has to be a written agreement that covers 4 topics. Topic 1 and 2 are, it has to specify and conspicuously disclose the amount or rate of any commission the agent will receive from any source and how this amount will be determined. Second is the amount of compensation must be objectively ascertainable and may not be open-ended. For example, buyer broker compensation shall be whatever the amount of the seller is offering. So that's the kind of biggest thing. For the longest time, buyer agents kind of just took whatever the seller was offering. And so that's the biggest change with this is now up front, we have to tell our buyers we're charging this. It will probably not come from you, but this is what we're charging. And then you have conversations. If it's less than this, or if we can't get it negotiated, we'll come down, but we'll talk about that later. So it has to be conspicuous and ascertainable.
I was just curious about if there's any gray area on the virtuals. Like, let's say that you schedule it as an agent review, so you're taking video for marketing materials, you can do it with the listing agent that you're going to do it for marketing, and you just happen to also use that as a virtual tour.
If you sent it to them after, I wouldn't get in a semantics thing. It's easy enough to get it. Let's just get it.
I would sign those to my agent.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I mean, if you just go get marketing material and then you have it on your phone and you send it to them, probably fine. Yeah, but if someone gets you in trouble, because all this is self-policed, no one's gonna catch you. You're gonna get turned in by one of your peers, is what's gonna happen. So if they see you were communicating with them, you were working with the buyer, having these conversations, then went and videoed something, then sent it to them, then it's like, okay, there's your $3,000 fine. And they're really strict about that because any violation of these rules opens the entire NAR up to more lawsuits, you personally to lawsuits and all kinds of stuff. So just do it is my thought, as much as you can. So the first 2 things are you have to specify, conspicuously disclose the amount you're going to receive from any source. Come on. Is that still recording?
Yeah.
Okay. You did? Okay. Potential spam. Got my do not disturb on now. It is recording? Okay. And the volume's going up and down, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so you have to specify and conspicuously disclose the amount you're receiving from any source. So if some's coming from the seller and some coming from the buyer, you have to the whole amount. You can't just tell the buyer what you're going to charge them. It's the whole amount that you're going to receive from anyone. And it has to be ascertainable, meaning it can't be whatever they provide. Or it can't be, I'll charge this, and if not that, then this, if then this kind of thing. It has to be ascertainable at the time of signing. The other 2 things is it must include a statement that the agent may not receive compensation from any source that exceeds the amount of what is agreed upon. So if I say 3% or 2 or 4 or whatever, and then I find out there's a bonus, I cannot take that bonus. I can only receive what I told you I was going to receive. And then number 4 is disclose in conspicuous language that broker commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. So those are the 4 things that a written agreement has to do to comply with this new regulation. I have to specify and conspicuously disclose the amount. It has to be ascertainable. The amount must be ascertainable. I cannot receive more than what was agreed to, and it has to state that it's not set by law. So those are the 4 things to make a written agreement comply with these new guidelines. So we'll look at ours. If anyone's not using our Copper Creek ones, I would we'll talk about it in a minute and show you, because ours comply with the guidelines, comply with OREC, and they're easier and simpler and faster and better and everything. So a couple of FAQs from these. Do I need a BBA when hosting an open house? No, we talked about that. What happens if I don't comply? Automatic fines of $1,000 from, it's $1,000 for, I can't remember what the $1,000 for. $2,500 is the fine for showing houses. So they're gonna automatically fine you, and then you gotta prove that you were not wrong. And you gotta pay the fine before you get permission to prove. You have to pay the fine before you can appeal, which is a very frustrating process. Plus it opens yourself up personally to liability to be sued if you don't comply with these guidelines. Can I amend my broker agreement to increase commission? So this was a big agents trying to be cute thing. So like, let's say I write 3,000 and then I go show a builder and the builder's offering an extra 3,000. Can I just amend it and say 3% plus 3,000 and then have the buyer sign it again? And there's nothing in here that says you can or cannot. However, case law, Oklahoma contract and case law, I had to dig deep for this. Only when the scope of work changes can you create and identify an increase of compensation change. Does that make sense? So if I change nothing on the agreement, but all I do is charge you more now because someone else is offering more, that potentially could be violating the spirit of the agreement.
Regarding legal framework, if you have in your BBA that is 3% and then the additional positions, you put plus any agent bonuses seller may be willing to offer and covered.
I don't think so, because that is not ascertainable. Has to be a specific rate. Yeah, it has to be a specific rate or amount. I'm gonna cut that out, don't. It has to be a specific rate or amount. It has to be ascertainable. So that's why, that would be really similar to saying whatever the seller offers. So you can't say 3% plus if there's anything extra, I'll take it. So however, that's why our agreements, if you use our agreements the way they're intended, and sometimes you can't always, but the best way to do it is use a touring agreement while you're shopping for houses, and then use a full service agreement when they find the right house and they're ready to make an offer. Because it leaves it open-ended until you know the house, and if there is a bonus, you explain that to the client, and you put that bonus on there and you get the whole thing. So it's open-ended until it needs to be not open-ended, and I'll talk through that in a minute. So the answer to that is not technically. The answer is no. The answer is no. However, there's ways to properly circumvent that. So again, only if you increase the scope of work or change the scope of work can you change commission. Is typically how that goes. So you want to be careful just changing it because they offer more. Because that was one strategy, is we just go around telling buyers, hey, I'm only going to charge 1%, and then we find a seller that's willing to pay 3%, we just change it to 3%. So hey, you don't owe me anything more than what we agreed, but so you can't really do that. Or if there's bonuses or whatever. I think bonuses have gone away now. There's no way to market the bonus mass anyways, and so it's just, I think they're going to slowly die. Any other FAQs, anything else on this? All right, understand how to win. A couple of things I try to do when we are going through navigating some new piece of information or legislation or whatever it might be, or new challenge or problem. Reduce friction, figure out the simplest way to do business. There's a quote, and I'm gonna mess it up, let me think about it for a second. Perfection is not when there's nothing left to add, but when there's nothing left to take away. And so sometimes people try to add more to make features better and faster or whatever, but whenever you've simplified it down to its most basic function is when it's perfect. When there's nothing left to take away is when it's the simplest, easiest. Simplicity scales, complexity fails. You ever heard that one? So reduce friction as much as you can. Set expectations. This is the biggest thing in every training I've ever done, every slideshow I've ever made, there is a slide dedicated to setting expectations. Every single thing I've ever taught and trained or anything. The more you can prepare your client for what is coming, the better you are as an agent, and the easier your life will be, and the easier your job will be. Anytime someone comes to me and says, I got the craziest client, every deal I've had lately has been so crazy, it's because you have missed a step somewhere. Everyone, I deal with this, same crazy you deal with. I just check boxes that you forgot to check. That's the only difference, I promise. Some people are crazy, I'm sure, but everyone is when they're going through this process. So setting expectations.
Oh my gosh, Shirley.
Where's the fire? All right. So setting expectations is going to be the biggest thing. The last thing is provide value. In a scenario where people don't know what's going on, the more you can provide and the better you can be, the more educated you can be, the more valuable you are to the client. The easier it is when I say you have to do this or this, they're just going to say okay. So the more valuable you can be before you ask for anything, like an agreement or anything like that, it's going to be easier to get those signatures. So you can be valuable on a phone call, super valuable, and then when the time comes to ask for that signature, they're like, sure, because this person's already been answering my questions, providing value, all kinds of stuff. So we'll go through in more detail on that. So the reduce friction piece. Easy to understand documents. Every agent, we've leveled the playing field here. Every agent has to get this signed. Now maybe there's some out there not doing it, whatever, but every agent is required to. So use that to your advantage. We can be better, easier, faster. So I have created a what we call a consulting agreement. It's basically a touring agreement. It obligates the buyer to nothing. They owe us nothing. It expires in 1 day, or I think it defaults to 30 days, but you can expire it in 1 day. It multiple times gives them options to cancel at any time. This is as risk-free of a document that I could possibly create by still making it compliant. And that's the idea, is I want to make it look so risk-free and easy that whatever, I'll just get out of it in 1 hour if I want. Whatever, I'll sign it. That's
One sign for 15 minutes.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, sign it for 20 minutes. That's it. And you can even write that. The simpler and more ridiculous you make this document look, the easier it is. So this is the touring agreement. The other piece of it is our automated process. So who here knows we have an automated process? All right, maybe half. Okay, I need to do more talking on this. So I'm glad we did this. If you go to bba.ccrebrokers.com, it will take you to our automated buyer broker process. And the idea here is when you're trying to capture a client, if you know someone and you get on the phone and you're like, hey, let's go, I want to shop houses. Okay, great, let's get together at Starbucks and go through blah, blah, blah. You can just get a full agreement signed if you want. That's fine. If you're trying to capture a lead, capture a sign call, capture someone at an open house, but you got to try to get it quick so we can go do something, this is super simple because it goes to their phone. They can watch a 60-second video, sign the document, and send it right back to you.
Isn't it in our portal, like on the left side in there?
There is a quick link. Yes, if you go into our portal, go to agent resources or tools, whatever it's called, there is a BBA link, takes you straight here. Essentially, everyone go try it, plug in a secondary email for yourself and see what happens. But when you go here, it's gonna default, yeah, here's what it looks like. So, if you've never used it before, watch this tutorial. If you've used it before, or if you already know how to use this form, proceed below. Okay, super simple. Try to make this so simple, because there's a lot of moving parts. Just follow the arrows and the rules and you'll get it. This is a minute video that shows you how to use it. A quick tip, if you leave something blank in here, the form will not work. I mentioned that in the video. Either put a 0 or an NA or no or something. You cannot leave it blank. If you leave it blank, it will not let the buyer click sign. It'll say something is missing and they can't fill it out either. I lock everything. So if you leave something blank, it will not work. So watch that 60-second video on how to use it. And then you're gonna come down here and just answer the questions. When does the start date? When's the expiration date? Are there any additional provisions in the BBA? Agent email address. And so you see, the BBA type, if I click just the consultation agreement, there is nothing else pops up. However, if I pick the full service agreement, you see other fields pop up. So if I'm doing a full service, I need to know what the commission amount is. Is there a transaction fee? Is there a flat fee amount? And read the placeholders. If you charge a %, input it here. If not, put 0. If you charge a transaction fee, put it here. If not, put 0. It has to be a 0 or an NA or something. If something is blank, it will malfunction. It won't work. And then you and the buyer, you'll be like, I'm trying. I sent it. It worked. It didn't work. Put up something in everything, and it'll work like charm. So you fill this out. Again, as soon as you get off the phone with a client that wants to see a house, or if you're in an open house, you want to go see another house, pull this up. Spend 20 seconds filling this out. Come down here, hit submit, and it will send them the document to electronically sign, and it will also send them this video. Come on. It will send them this video, and this is one of the more valuable things. The more you can concisely convey what is happening, why I need this, the easier it is for them to sign. So everyone should watch this video and be able to kind of regurgitate it. But this is a video that it shows them. It'll be sent to them in an email, they'll open it, and this is the first thing they see is this. So I'm gonna try to. Hi, I'm Brett Kreger, and I'm the managing broker for Copper Creek Real Estate. I wanted to take just a minute and explain a simple and straightforward document that we need before we can start showing you homes. This document is required, and it gives us authorization to start showing you homes. Think of this as a no obligation, risk-free trial in working with Copper Creek Real Estate. By signing this document, you're not committing to anything long-term. It just allows us to start showing you homes that match your criteria. You get to see how we work and if we're going to be a good fit for you. There are no strings attached and no hidden fees. It's just our way of ensuring that we can provide you the best service possible while you're making one of the biggest decisions of your life. Once we find the perfect home and you're ready to make an offer, we have a different agreement that outlines additional brokerage services and how we'll be compensated for those. But for now, we're just getting to know you and you don't owe us anything. If you have any additional questions or need any further clarification, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to make this home buying process as smooth and enjoyable as possible. Thank you for considering Copper Creek Real Estate, and we look forward to helping you find the perfect home. So go play with it, bba.ccrebrokers.com. Again, it's a quick, easy way. Do it with your spouse or a second phone number, a second email or whatever. Send it to them. It's super simple. It basically, they get an email that says showing prep, Copper Creek Real Estate, and in the phone call, you're just gonna say, hey, I'm gonna send you over a quick email with some showing prep stuff, some information about our showing tomorrow, and a document we need. If you have any questions, let us know. They're gonna watch it, hopefully sign it. If they have questions, if the time comes for the appointment, you confirm your appointment, you can just bring this document with you and sign it on the front porch. But this is gonna normally get everything signed for you that you need. So, super simple process, explains the whole thing very clearly, and then you can watch it and kind of reiterate what it says to them when you meet with them, if you need to. So, again, the easier you can make this process, the more nonchalant you can make it, the more you can explain, they can cancel anytime, the easier you make this process, the better. So these two videos I showed you are right here. Videos explaining the touring agreement and videos explaining the full service agreement. Click that and it'll take you so you can watch them, listen to them, see what we say, and you can say the same thing when you're explaining it to them in person. Okay, so first was reduce friction, second is set expectation. Nothing is more important than setting expectation. Whether it be buyers, sellers, investors, construction, whatever. The more expectations you can set, the smoother everything in your life and in your business will be. So you can make your life smoother and easier when you set expectations, everything around you. Explain what will happen before it happens. That is how you set expectations. If you know inspections are coming up or showings or the lender is doing pre-approval or we got the appraisal coming up, whatever it might be, explain what will happen, explain what could happen, and explain what we'll do in that scenario. Now you don't want to kind of run off in a bunch of directions creating problems that don't exist yet, but you can set expectations on what could happen and what might happen in the coming days, week, or the coming contract period. The more you do that, then when bad things happen, I already set the expectation of what could happen and now we work through it. Whenever, again, I always talk about buyers or sellers when they're going through this real estate transaction, imagine them as like a person walking through a haunted house. They have no idea what's about to happen, what's about to pop out from the corner and scare them. That's how buyers and sellers get spooked. That's how a small little stupid thing can bust a deal, is because they got spooked because you didn't do a good job setting expectations. So the more deals you do and the more experience you have, the easier it is for you to set these expectations. But in the beginning, it's very simple too. You know what step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is in the buyer process. And if not, we have it in our buyer booklet and you can just walk through it too. So clearly define what will happen next. You have to have the conversation before it happens. You cannot set expectations after something happened. Then you're backpedaling. Has to be done before. So that's where setting expectations is, I'm gonna send you a document, we need it to go show the home. If you don't wanna work with us after you see this home, then you just cancel it, you don't owe us any money. And then when they read it, they reiterate what we've told them in person, we've set their expectation. And then when we're there, we build rapport and hopefully they wanna continue the relationship. But setting expectations is the number one way to make sure your job's easier and people act more predictably. When they're spooked is when they act irrational. Understand how you provide value. So you hear me talk about this a lot too. You can provide value in a 60-second phone call. And it comes from speaking confidently, knowing what you're talking about, and being unapologetic about what you're asking for and what you're saying. That's very big. People, especially over the phone, all they can hear is your tone. Can't see you, can't see your body language. They don't know you or know what you look like. They hear your tone. And you can tell if someone's talking to me that doesn't even believe what they're telling me, or they're not sure what they're even telling me. And that will kill your conversion so fast. Confidence is the number one thing. You can hear that through a phone call more than anything. So the way you provide value is become their agent before they even hire you. We talk about this in open houses. Just do things their agent would be doing. Ask questions their agent should be asking. Provide value their agent should be providing. I'm not just gonna answer their questions. I'm gonna go do the things I know every buyer wants and needs because I'm already becoming their agent. I'm gonna start finding out, are they pre-approved and all that stuff. I'm gonna go down all these, asking these questions, setting these expectations, providing these value, sharing my secrets and my tips and everything I share with my clients, I'm sharing it with this prospect, and that's how you provide value. And that's why I say more is caught than taught. During all this whole process, it was real popular to say buyer agents need to articulate their value to get people to sign these agreements and agree to pay these commissions. And I think articulating it is more about showing them how valuable you are, not telling them. Don't tell them how awesome I am and how I'm gonna help you do this and that and that. Just be valuable to them, right? More is caught. I'm gonna know you're more valuable in a 60-second conversation with you than if you sent me over some presentation. I can tell if you're gonna be valuable or not, right? Over the phone, in person, however it might be, by the questions you ask, by the things you say, by the knowledge you have. There's 5 ways to be valuable down here I'll just talk about. So they're gonna know you're valuable by how you treat them, not by what you say. Does that make sense? By the service you provide them, not by just sitting down and talking about how valuable you are. A couple of concepts that I've tried to live in my business as a broker and as an agent is provide more in value than you receive in compensation. If you're constantly doing more than you're paid for, if you do more than you're paid for, eventually you'll be paid for more than you do. Anyone ever read the book, The Go-Giver? Same concept. If you're just giving, providing value, eventually it all comes back around, I promise you. So a lot of people don't want to work with you. I'm not going to show you a house. I'm not going to have this conversation until you sign an agreement. Provide value. Be their agent, provide value. Don't gate any information. Don't hide anything from them. And eventually you're going to, they're just going to become your agent because you're the most valuable person they've met. Even if they've already met with an agent and that person won't call them back, or they're being short, or they're asking abrupt questions that are just whatever it might be, provide value and serve them, and you're going to get the business. So 5 ways you can provide value is the knowledge you possess, the resources you provide, the technology you use, the systems you create, and the processes that you have. The smoother it is to work with you, the more valuable you are. If you have no idea what's going on in your business and what happens after this, or what do I do when this happens, your business is clunky and your service is clunky. So have your system laid out. And I shortcut it by having processors and TCs and stuff like that that make the process smoother. I just need to know about it. I don't need to be able to do it. But with technology that you use, knowledge you possess, resources you have, who's your referral partners that you can send them, what buyer resources can you give them, all that kind of stuff. The more valuable you are by having these things, the more they're gonna pick up on that during a short conversation. You'd be shocked when you're trying to convert a client, the conversation bounces all over the place because you're trying to provide value to them. Provide value they haven't even asked for yet. And in a very 60-second, 90-second conversation, they can know that, oh crap, whatever I need, Brett's gonna have something for me in a very short conversation, if you are a valuable real estate agent. Does that make sense? All makes sense. And it's so subtle, but you can sit next to someone who's been doing this forever, and they can have a conversation, and how confidently they speak and the resources they provide, they'll get clients like this. And then you'll try to have that same conversation, and you'll fumble it and you'll lose it. And so it is practice and it's preparation. So having these things in place is what's going to make you valuable to them. All right, now we're getting into the actual written agreement, how to get the agreement signed, the sales process of what we go through. So a couple different strategies. What I like to recommend is either 1 or 2. You can do 3, but in the scenarios where you might do 3, you might as well do 1 or 2, because then you can pivot your commission in the event that more commission is being offered for some reason. So you want to start with a touring agreement, move to a full service agreement when it's time to write the offer. Or start with a touring agreement, build rapport, maybe show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses, and then say, hey, I've really enjoyed working with you. I hope you enjoy working with me. If so, why don't we just sign this 30-day agreement? You can cancel any time anyway, but at least we don't have to keep doing these agreements every time we go see a house. And then you can get it into a full service. Then we're talking about commission. We're talking about how commission works, how much I'll be paid, who will pay it, how it will get paid, when it gets paid. You'll have to have all those conversations when this gets signed. So you can go here straight to, I want to buy this house. Okay, now let's fill this out. Or you can go here to, hey, I've really enjoyed working with you. Let's go ahead and move it into a full service so we don't have to keep signing documents. Or you can just, if your friend calls or you get a referral, you can sit down with them, you can slow down, you can provide value, set expectations, you can do all that in a buyer consultation, and then you can just get the full written agreement signed at the consultation, because they're gonna work with you no matter what, kind of thing. But again, it doesn't give you the flexibility to pivot commission in a situation where that might be beneficial to you. So not a wrong way to do it. You have to get this document eventually, so if you can get it earlier, great. But touring agreement is all you need to get going, to start showing houses.
Is there a benefit to getting the full service before the offer?
No, because your touring agreement can last for 90 days.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can last for an agreement by state law, agreement can only be 365 days. So you can get a 365-day touring agreement, and then when the time comes, you flip it into a full service to write an offer. That's how I like to do it, especially if I'm working with a lot of captured business. Now, if all my business is referral, whatever, I'll pop it in there. But again, it doesn't give me the flexibility to pivot if I need to. So be able to explain these agreements, be able to know what they are, know the differences, know when and how to pivot into them, and then automate the process. Our automated BBA process, dot loop is a way to obviously get it as well. But the easier and smoother this process is, the easier it is. So I'll talk more about that in a second too. So, okay, the buyer consultation. So if you have the ability to sit down with a client, you should be doing a buyer consultation of some sort with every single buyer you walk through, or that you work with. Some you can sit down and have an hour-long conversation. Some want to be more on the move. Hey, I want to go see this house, or you capture them, they want to go show that house. So you have to have these conversations across a couple different meetings or across a couple different houses. But if you can get someone to sit down, it's the best thing you can do. Get them to sit down at the office, go to Starbucks, meet at a house, and then chat for 20 minutes. It's the best thing you can do. The better you get at this, the more you can just have this conversation casually. But when you're brand new, we have a book, a buyer consultation book, and it just walks you through all the conversations you need to have. It's the wants and needs of the buyer. It's the pre-approval process, the offer writing process, the inspection process, appraisal process, and the closing process. Those are the 6 things you need to talk about. That's how you set expectations, so that when those things happen, they're not freaking out and they're not nervous about what's next, and they don't just start throwing roadblocks out at you. So the better you are, you can talk about these things before they happen without having to sit down. But the more you can sit down and just go through them, the better, the smoother the process is going to be. So you want to outline the entire buying process. You want to set all the expectations associated with it. You want to provide value, resources, all these things that they need. I might need a home inspector. I'm going to need a lender. I'm going to need insurance person. Here's a booklet. Here's a home searching website that ties directly to me. Provide all these resources, and then discuss commission. And so here's an example of the booklet. This is essentially the conversations you want to have with buyers to set expectation before we go into before we do our job. Learn about us, a little bit about us. Top 5 brokerages OKC. We service 15 cities across Oklahoma, 75 plus agents. We need to update this. 1,200 families served last year. Services we provide: buyer consulting and full buyer broker service. So again, this is a touring agreement, and this is the full written agreement, and it explains the differences there. So it's kind of guides you through the conversation you need to have. So the purchasing timeline, these are the things we want to talk about: the pre-search, the search, the offer, the contract, and the closing. So the pre-search, we're going to talk about pre-approval, what costs to expect, timing of when we need to do this. The search, what to expect, what are your must-haves versus nice-to-haves, wants versus needs. The offer, what the paperwork says, how we submit it, what terms we can negotiate. The contract, which is going to be inspections, appraisal, and title work. Those are the contingencies. And then the closing. On closing day, what is it going to look like? I always like to talk about a 2-week freak out. So in the last couple of weeks of a contract, something always goes haywire, so give heads up. And then some terms to know: what's a contingency, what is earnest money, what is closing costs, what's a down payment, what is title search. And then the last one is contact us, so just ask for referrals. So if you get a buyer, and we have a seller one too, I'll show you for your sit down with the seller. So if you get to sit down with a buyer, have this, print it. It's a leave behind that you can give them. When you leave, they have all this, but it makes sure you touch on everything that needs to be touched on, so that when the inspection process popped up, we already talked about it. When the appraisal pops up, we already talked about it. When it's time to write an offer, we already talked about it. We're setting expectation, providing value. So this is the booklet that I would go through.
Where is that at?
It is in the marketing. If you go into our agent portal, agent resources, marketing suite, it is in there. All right. So all this is made easier if you can do a full buyer service agreement, or a buyer consultation. Sorry. If you can do a full buyer consultation, this whole process is made simpler. We'll talk about if you can in a second. And so here's basically the conversation, how I explain it clearly, simply to the buyer. There are 4 ways for me to get paid as a buyer agent. 1 is the seller pays me, 2 is the listing agent pays me, 3 is the buyer pays me, or 4 is a combination of any of the first 3. As a general practice, I try to avoid having my buyers come out of pocket for any of my fees. So if we're in a situation where the seller or listing agent won't pay my amount, we have other options to prevent you from coming out of pocket. We can ask for additional closing costs beyond what we actually need, or we can roll the fee into the price of the home. But just know that I won't let my fee get in the way of the transaction. So the idea is, if something pops up, we're gonna work through it, but option 1 is not cut bread out of the deal, right? Does that make sense? And hopefully I'm gonna provide you a good enough service that you're not gonna even wanna think about doing that. But I wanna let you know, I will not get in the way of this transaction. We will work out my compensation. If it doesn't work out, we're gonna get you the house anyway. It probably won't come to that, 99.999 times out of 10 or 100. It won't come to that. But this is the conversation you have. This is how I get paid. These are the options. If they don't want to pay it, here's what options we have. We created a buyer FAQ page, so this is available in the marketing material as well, I believe. Double check me there, Micah. So there are things that the agreement cannot say. The written agreement has to be ascertainable. and conspicuous, and it can't say certain things. This is not an agreement with anyone's size. This is just an FAQ page. It answers questions that the buyer are gonna have, like, what if they won't pay it? And it says we will reduce our commission if we have to, basically. It says we're gonna do whatever we need to do. But there's a couple of FAQs. Is it mandatory to have a buyer agent? No. Can I ask the seller to pay? Yes. When is the agent compensation due? So it's just some stuff, buyer FAQs that you can give the buyer with the broker agreement if you want. And it says those things like, what if I can't get them to pay? We're gonna try our best to negotiate what different options we have, but in the event we can't get it, I will not let my fee stand in the way of the transaction. We don't ever want them to think I have to get rid of Brett to buy this house. That can never cross their mind. So I'm gonna let them know, no matter what, we're gonna get the house you want, but we have options to work out my fee so that they don't have to come out of your pocket. So the FAQ page is a way to read between the lines. It's a way to say things that you can't say in the agreement. Because you might have a verbal conversation with your buyer like, hey, if we can't get 3%, I'm not gonna take it out of your pocket. Well, it says you are, so what do we do here? Okay, well by law it has to say certain things, but here's how we actually practice. You can give them these things. So sometimes they'll cool with that, sometimes they're not, but that's how you can explain it to them a little bit.
Did you say that was in the market on speed too?
I thought so. Do you see it in there? It might, it's, you know, so it's on, when this goes out, it's right here. I'll add it to the marketing suite though. So handling objections. I haven't seen this a whole bunch. Has anyone seen listing agents counter with just $0 commission?
Well, it might as well have been. Yeah.
Okay, so they're counting back significantly lower.
Yeah, and there's a whole script for it because if you're coming in with an aggressive offer, it's actually become fairly commonplace to get a counter back with a reduced commission. And the way we've been educating our people is if you're coming in with an aggressive offer.
Aggressive meaning really strong.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We're trying to get 15, 20, whatever.
Right.
The house. So there's
Low offer.
Yeah,
then.
low.
A low offer.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
because
okay.
we're in a market where sellers are giving concessions.
Correct.
And so in a market where sellers are giving concessions, when you ask for $10,000 in closing costs and they say sure, but it's at 1% compensation, what they're doing is they're attaching a hidden fee, which is a 3% we agreed to pay me, into that. So you're not really getting 10 grand in closing costs. They're giving you 10 grand to cover that 2%. And it's just educating your people to understand that commission reductions are more just added fees.
Yeah. Okay. Back on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then the next step is to explain to the buyer we counter back with the original because it's not. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Whatever we can make work.
Yeah. So, yes. So number one thing I tell people when it happens, take a deep breath. You're not gonna get cut out. You know, it's like we just have to negotiate this thing. Why? You know, that was my biggest fear when this whole thing happened. Is if I'm a seller, why wouldn't I counter them back at 2%? Why wouldn't I? Sure, counter back at 1.5%. And let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
So that was my biggest fear. Is every contract we're going to be negotiating commission through it. It hadn't been that way for the most part, but a handful, especially as offers get worse. As days sit on market and price cuts and people lose equity and price cuts and stuff like that, they potentially might get worse. So take a deep breath and just counter back. They say 2.5, your BBA says 3, counter back at 3. So negotiate through the agent. If you came to our negotiating contract or our negotiating class, you remember most agents just repeat whatever you tell them. Whatever I tell that agent, they're just gonna turn around and tell it right to their client. So use that to give them ammunition to protect your commission. Hey man, my guy owes me 3% and he can't pay it. So just have your seller bake that into the offer. Instead of taking 1% off my commission, add 1% of the price because he owes it to me. And if you guys can't get it, we have to find something else. And then he's gonna turn around and say, hey, he doesn't have it. He's gotta give it to him. Raise the price by 1%. I basically told him what to do. I told him how to counter us. So he doesn't have to do anything. He just turns around and regurgitates what I say back to him and they say, okay, makes sense, and they come back to us. Coach the other agent on how to handle your commission if they come back low.
The only time commissions on the buyer's end can get dicey is when they're competing for homes.
Yeah, multiple offers?
Yeah.
Correct,
And
yes.
that's where sometimes you have to eat.
Yeah. Yes. You don't want to, that's what's so frustrating because you don't want to start there. It's likely the other agent in that offer competition has commission on there. And unless you're dealing with someone who is representing a family member or something, where there might be a cut commission, then it comes down to the strongest offer. But yeah, multiple offers it's just one extra thing. But yeah, there's no way around it. You can reduce closing costs that you asked for. You can raise the price, but if you go over list too much, you create other risks. So it's just a dicey situation for sure. That multiple offers is. So coach the other agent how to coach their seller, and the buyer broker agreement. Your written agreement is your leverage. This guy owes me 3%, but he doesn't have it. So we need a seller that can pay it. So just bake it into your counteroffer. Assume he has to pay me 3%, so bake it in. If you need to raise your price 1%, do it. So you say that to the listing agent, they turn around and say, okay, and say it to their seller. And then we get a counter with 3%. Now we're talking about the price now. Commission's off the table. But every seller is gonna have commission on the table first. Everyone wants to go after commissions first. So this is how you can kind of coach the seller, coach the buyer, listing agent to coach the seller. Does that make sense?
To me, it's the new law.
Yeah. As it goes forward, most contracts will probably have some negotiation in
Say,
it.
if you're gonna be coming off the price and you're expecting a counter, expect them to try to take at least a portion of that out of my commission.
And I think, yeah, that's probably not a bad expectation to set. And here's how we're gonna counter it. And if you do that before it happens, then it's like, okay, well, here we are. Exactly. I think over time, the way we can prevent this from coming up on every deal is listing agents properly setting expectations with sellers in the beginning. Now again, sellers are gonna do whatever they want. And some are, even before this, some sellers were just hard asses and wouldn't pay a certain amount of money. But if a listing agent can set that if a listing agent can set the same expectation I just told them to set from the beginning, then they wouldn't have countered me back at 2% at all. They would have just agreed and they would have countered back at whatever they need, right? This is a baked in fee that they can't cover. So we need to counter accordingly. And that's what I tell my sellers. And they always ask, should we counter on the commission? No, because just like me and you sat down and talked about my fee, they sat down and talked about their fee. And they have an agreement and they owe that person. So let's just bake it in. By law, they're not allowed to put more than they are required to pay now. So I know this is what they need because it's by law what they have to put. So let's just bake it back in. Let's put it into our counter and send it back. And I told you when we listed it, there was a 99% chance there was a 2.5 to 3% commission coming. It came in at 3, like I knew it would, but I had to say 2.5 to 3. And so actually what I say is there's a 94% chance 94% of contracts have a buyer's agent attached to them. So every time I'm setting that expectation, I always tell sellers there's a 94% chance that the buyer's gonna be attached to an agent and they're gonna want a 2.5 to 3% commission. And it kind of gives them a little hope that maybe there's a 6% chance that someone doesn't, but it never does. They always come in, but I give them that hope, but I set the expectation. And then when it comes in, we don't even talk about it. Remember I said they agreed and blah, blah, blah. So you have those expectations up front with the seller and it never even comes up. You should never, ever let your seller try not to counter back at 0% commission because it just creates undue duress on the entire buy side of the transaction. Bake it into your counteroffer. I should have told you from the beginning that this is a likely or probable situation. So, went off on a little tangent there. Does this make sense on how to coach the listing agent on how to protect your commission? All right. Okay, when we're structuring the commission, this is the document we're using on every single contract now when we're writing contracts. So you have to have your BBA or your written agreement that states what you're going to get paid, and then you put it on the cooperative compensation supplement when you submit your offer. One thing I've noticed a lot of buyer agents doing is not checking the box here. And the risk there is that this document gets lost and it doesn't end up on your settlement statement, or the seller doesn't see it on accident somehow, whatever it might be. If you don't check there, then it's technically not a part of the contract. I guess you could still say it is, but it's not attached as an attachment. So make sure you're checking that box that says cooperative compensation supplement. So this is how you fill it out. I'm basically gonna get paid X dollars or X percent. Buyer signs it, seller signs it, and that's where your commission is protected. Make sense? And then in the new counter offers that they created this year, there's a portion in supplements, right? It doesn't have its own section, does
The
it?
new counter is pretty grody.
It's just a lot.
Yeah.
But it's just, you counter it under supplements. There's not a spot for commission, I don't think. I have to look at that. But make sure you are checking your box when you're submitting your buyer broker agreement. Okay, this is kind of the conversation you're having with your buyer. So here's what you need to understand. Buyers don't know any better. They haven't bought a house in 7-10 years ever, right? Before this buyer broker stuff happened, we still made them sign 50 things. They have no idea what they are. They always rely on you to explain what they're signing, right? They have no idea what they're signing. You got to set expectations and explain. It's no different. It's different to us, and we feel weird because it's icky and it's about our commission, but it's no different. You need to understand it's always been this way. Speak confidently and be unapologetic about the fact that this document exists, because this conversation should have always existed, but now it's just required on the front end. So when you're having these, don't hem and haw, because if buyers sense anything, if they sense an inch, they're going to take a mile, right? Here's what we need in order to see this house. Whether you work with me or Joe Blow down the street, they're going to make you sign this document. Cool thing is, mine allows you to cancel anytime. A lot of people don't let you do that. So I'm going to send this out, take a look at it, let me know if you have any questions, whatever. So the more confidently and unapologetic you are about this document, the less pushback you're going to receive from the buyer. Make it sound easy and non-committal. It's a simple document. It expires today, and you can cancel it anytime. If you don't like it, let's set a 15-minute time period, and it expires by the time this showing's over, right? Be as silly or as ridiculous as you want. The more they realize that, okay, it's required, but I can get out of it at any time, the more likely they're going to sign it. So make it simple, easy, non-committal. And then use automation. If I have to hold on, I have to pull up Dot Loop and get all your information, what's your email, I have to pull all this stuff out and send it, and it's harder. There's more friction there, especially if I just want to see a house, bro. I just want to go look at this house. Who else do I need to call to go see this house? And people are like that. The more awkward you are over the phone, or the slower you are to just confirm an appointment, the more likely they're just not going to use you. They're just going to hang up and call who they meant to call the first time, right? Which is the listing agent. So use automation, be quick, be easy, be smooth. And then, so the conversation for converting, like when we're trying to capture cold prospects, open house, sign calls, internet leads, whatever they might be, have your LP Mama conversation. And the last A is appointment. Once I set that appointment, then I go into this. Give them what they want, lead with value. Then, hey, heads up, I'm gonna send you an email, an appointment. It's a showing prep email. It's got a little video to watch and a little document for you to review. Take a look, let me know if you have any questions, and then send it off. And it's gonna tell them we need it, it's gonna show them how to sign, it's gonna do all of it for them. But we're gonna capture their information. I'm gonna find out their location, their price, their motivation. I don't like talking about agent and mortgage yet, you can, but then appointment. Once I schedule that appointment, now they're kind of locked into me a little bit because we agreed to meet tomorrow at 4 or today at 3 or whatever. And then, hey, there's an email coming, take a look at it. If I don't have that signed back, then I bring it to the appointment with me. I wouldn't follow up and say, hey, you haven't done this yet, please go do this, because that's just gonna get them to cancel it. Confirm the appointment, but don't hound them out on the document over the phone. Get face to face with them, say, hey, again, I'll write 15 minutes here if I need to. I just want to show you this house, and I know you're gonna like me after we do it, and we'll keep working together. If not, never have to call me again.
Something I do on the driveway signs, because I do those a lot, I'll put a little asterisk next to where you italicized, no commitment, no compensation. And I say, this is the most important part you're gonna see, the value I'm giving you is at the top. While I open the door, I just want you to look that over. If you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah, that's.
Or got signed by the time I got the door open.
Let me try to find it. Yeah, highlight it, circle it, underline it, red asterisk next to it.
Yeah.
Show them you don't owe me anything.
No, I literally say this is to prevent me from getting fined. This is so I can still earn your business like I used to.
Yep. The more you can do that. So that's where, if you do, like you said, driveway signing, I'd circle it or highlight it or whatever. Draw attention to that. So they know, again, it's like the more non-committal this is, the easier it is for you to get in that door with them. And they're there. I just have to sign this document that says I don't owe this guy anything. Whatever, fine. Here, show me the house.
They're more empathetic when they understand it's to protect me from the real estate commission versus tying you to me.
Right. Yeah. And if someone, I wouldn't go too deep into why it's required unless they're pushing back.
I'll give them all.
Getting the weeds too easy.
Oh, I'll give them the
Yeah.
I say listing agents have full conversations.
Yeah.
They show up with it at the door, they sign it. And then when they sign the
the long-term agreement, I have a printed off of the cooperative broker agreement, so they can see. I'll tell them, when you submit an offer for a house, this will be attached,
Yeah.
so they don't get freaked out about having to pay me commission.
Yeah.
And that's, that tends
Oh,
to
so they can read what'll happen.
Yeah.
And
So
so
that-
it says you owe me, but this is what we do.
Right,
Yeah.
no, that eases their, stress about having to pay me money.
Yeah, I like that too. Attaching that for reference. That's
Yeah.
good.
So I don't have to go into a big, long spiel about
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, that's so many people just want to see the house.
Yeah, that's
And so if they sign it, just get it signed. But if they're like, what is this again? Then you can go and be like, there was a lawsuit a couple years ago. Listing agents did a bad job explaining. Buyer agents get punished for it.
You'll never be able to explain that.
No, they don't have the industry.
20 seconds.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Point the finger at someone else. Just say we need it. But hey, at the end of the day, here you go. Cancel it. When we walk out the door, sign it and hand it back to me. Cancel. And there's nothing. That's why the document at the bottom has a cancellation section. So down here at the bottom, it's a notice of cancellation. So when we walk out of this door, if you don't want to work with me anymore, sign it right here and hand it back to me. And you owe me you owe me no money. So again, it's just with this, it should be you should not be getting rejected with this. Some people will, but this is so simple and easy and outline it. And I should probably even bold the sections that say, you don't owe us any money.
It's perfect.
So yeah. So
We can
that's
let
gonna,
them pull in first and you pull in behind them.
Yeah.
So they can't run.
maybe pop a tire. Yeah. That's good. They get out with a ski mask. Yeah. Classic Ramsey. So that's the. Again, I think having your normal conversion conversation, your LP Mama conversation first, and does everyone know what LP Mama when I'm saying that? It's finding out their motivation. What do they want? It's the capture conversation. Then last thing, hey, real quick, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna send you this showing prep email. It has a video and a document for you to review. Take a look, let me know if you have any questions.
I only do that in open houses, because I don't have a chance to print one out.
So if you get one, you're just gonna pop it in on the driveway?
Yeah.
You don't send it pre? Okay.
Unless I meet them at open house and we're going directly from the open house to the showing.
Yeah.
I'll do it then, otherwise I'm having them sign in person, because most people aren't gonna say, well, I don't know about this.
I wanted this house. Yeah. So if you're doing open houses, taking internet leads, doing sign calls and stuff like that, print 10 of them off. Yeah, just have them in your bag. No reason not to. Because it's probably easier to do it on the driveway because they're in front of the house. They want to see it. Explain the non-committal. Show them where you don't owe anything. Show them where you cancel it in 15 minutes and walk in and show the house. And then again, you just become their agent. Provide value. Do stuff for them. And they're going to want to do it again. Hey, remember that stupid document you signed? Got to do it again. Unless, if you want to work with us, you can still cancel anytime, but let's put it into a 30-day process so you don't have to sign something. You can kind of inch your way into that agreement, that long-term agreement. So, but again, the simpler you make it, and the better you can explain it, and easier documents to explain are better. The OREC wants 4 pages. It's absurd. Don't try to go learn that. Use ours. It's infinitely easier. That's all. Any other top conversations, questions about getting it? Yeah.
I just have a question on, so if you have somebody sign a 15-minute thing and they want to make an offer, you don't bring out the BDA until you send them the offer to sign, right?
No, I would flip it. So the 2 BBAs, I wish I had them side by side. So up top, it outlines the purpose of the agreement. So this is, the services for this agreement include buyer needs analysis, present estimated financials, financial costs with transaction, discuss financing options, schedule tours, and showing properties. And then I put telling funny jokes as needed as a way to lighten up the document. And then when you go to the full service one, it has like 3 others, which is writing offers, negotiating offers, and something else. There's like 3 other managing the transaction or something like that. So you just say, hey, these agreements, we need a new agreement since this is going into a different scope of work. So before we write this offer, I want to make sure you know how I get paid and how it works. And they're going to say, oh, okay, great. And I've not thought of that, but I love what Corey does, which is provide the cooperative compensation document with it. So you can say, hey, this says you owe me, but this is how it actually works in practice. Seller pays it. You can see right here, it says seller to pay broker. And then we negotiate it. So I like adding that in. But that's how you would flip it is, hey, if you want to write an offer, our current agreement doesn't cover that scope of work, so we just need a new agreement. It's just like the old one, but it adds this scope of work, and then send it over. But you really want it before you write it.